Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Planet Marzipan,
Your Fish and Marillion podcast.
where we talk about all things in the planet of Marillion and fish. I'm Mezza, and here's my mate.
Craig Houston.
Hello, welcome to Planet Marzipan. I'm Mezza. I'm here with my good friend.
Craig.
And we welcome back some guests from last week. We welcome Paul McMillan back.
Evening, gentlemen.
Hi, Paul. We welcome Nathan Page.
Evening, guys.
Hi, Nathan. We welcome Gary Page.
Good evening, fellas.
Hi, Gary. And we welcome Sir James of Levey.
Evening all.
Hi, James. You okay?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Better known as Jimmy Page.
Haven't got the hair for it.
And as you can hear, Mr. H is with us. Good evening, Steve.
Good morning.
Evening,
Are you
afternoon,
well?
whatever. Are you well?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Been singing today?
I'm a bit hoarse. I don't know why. I think maybe I've got something coming on, but it doesn't matter because I haven't got any shows for a while now. I've just got album stuff, and they can do anything with technology, darling.
Cruise to the Edge is going to be here before you know it as well, isn't it?
That's very true. How far out are we from that? About a month?
Yeah, it's about a month, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. A bit of
Have you
sunshine.
So you packed your suntan lotion already?
I've packed my shopping list. I'm on a mission. I want Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. And I reckon I can get it in the market in Nassau, Bahamas for a lot less than it costs here. Because it's 80 quid for 250 grams.
Jesus.
It's completely mental. But it is very nice.
Yeah.
So I thought if I'm sort of near Jamaica, it's probably quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
It's not the one that's passed through a cat, is it?
I don't care as long as it tastes great. Oh look,
Evening, Richard.
Hey, Mr. B.
Right, can you hear me?
Yay!
Certainly can.
Can you see me?
We can
Yes.
see as well, yes. Welcome
Great.
to Richard Barbieri. Cheers.
Oh, you bugger. I nearly ordered a G&T, but and then I thought, oh, hang on, out of respect.
I've had a Bendix mint and now I'm on the Prosecco.
Oh, nice.
It's good. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
That's no problem. No problem.
We're here to see what you two guys can remember about the Not the Weapon album.
Yes.
I'll have 50 quid, says he remembers more than I do.
He's got a copy of it as well, though.
Hey, look here, Luke.
Yes, in case I have to refer to the lyrics.
Yeah, that's me too. That's what I've just been doing.
You know your rug is on the wall instead of the floor.
You can't put it on the floor. It's worth a fortune. The dog would walk on it.
Is it a Afghan?
Oh, have you not heard the rug story?
No.
There isn't. I'll send you the diary piece. It'll well, if you weren't grey, it would turn you grey.
Okay.
Story, yeah. But both of us are. So it was quite a day, the purchase of the rug. It was a sort of accidental purchase. I went into a shop in San Francisco for a very small light bulb. I don't know, about 50 cents worth.
Mm.
And I came out with that, and that was $3,000.
Okay. I do that in a smaller way in Lidl.
I bet you're a bugger in the middle aisle in Aldi as well.
You go for a bag of sugar and come out with a shower curtain.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, the album that we're here to talk about came out in 2012, but I understand the sort of genesis of it was a lot earlier than that. Can Richard, can
I
you take a
think
little
so,
bit
yeah.
about how it came out?
We had been swapping things back and forth for quite a while. Yeah. I don't know for how long, but it was I had a sort of a clear amount of time ahead of me then. And so I kind of got to work on a lot of the music at that point. And I mean, Steve is always busy with Marillion, so he kind of worked when he could. But he worked in quite an interesting way. He'd just be up in his room and you'd just kind of get this atmosphere. You'd hear all the kind of background noises and he'd just come out with all kinds of ideas. And it was a very nice way of doing it. It felt really good and sort of organic.
I know I had a loft in my old house, the one I'm not in now, not this old house, the other old house, the one I lived in earlier, and you used to have to go up a ladder to get to it. And I had a little recording set up there, not much, and I did it all up there. I remember listening to what became Red Kite the first time I heard that and just thinking, this is wonderful. And I think a lot of the words on this were things I'd had, on the shelf. I think I'd had, I definitely had A Cat with Seven Souls and Crack on the shelf. I might have had Your Beautiful Face on the shelf, but I definitely didn't have Red Kite. That was kind of inspired in the moment by what I was hearing. I was trying to
Stream of consciousness.
sort of, yeah, not quite that easy, unfortunately, but it developed from the pictures, in my head and the commute to the studio across the fields, and quite a lot of red kites above the M4 motorway if you come to London. But I liked the idea of it being an actual red kite, in the sky.
Yeah. Well, and the kind of idea or not, but the way of delivering the vocal in more like a kind of poem or just a spoken voice to start with, and that kind of set the tone for the album in a way. That was quite different.
Yeah.
A lot of Steve's vocals on here are the first time that we'd heard him singing this way. We talked about that quite a lot in the first episode. Things that you kind of used later on with Marillion. This is the first time as fans, we'd kind of heard you speak and whisper things, and then you've got the other extreme where on Crack you've got distorted vocals.
Yeah, well, I guess that was the obvious thing to do, to try and mirror the mania in that lyric, and the sense of psychosis in that lyric. It's about, obsessing on someone to the point where you will definitely drive them away, with the intensity of what you're feeling, because at a certain point you freak people out, and God knows I have.
Don't really know what to say to that.
But
Classic Rock said, "This is chiefly soft-spoken, sepia and sensitive."
Well, that puts it far better than I could. Yeah.
There you go.
Were you responsible for all the music, Richard, or did you have some input into that on this album?
To my memory, none whatsoever on Not the Weapon. I think I did a couple of little things on Across Arclight, but on this one, no, I don't think so. I think Richard sent me all the music, and I just got on and tried to. I probably affected the arrangements a little bit.
Yeah, we did a lot of editing and cutting up and moving things around, which you had to, because I'm not a songwriter. I don't know how to write songs.
Neither do I.
it just happens that maybe one in every sort of 10 or 11 things that I give to a vocalist, one of them they'll latch onto and do something with, and then it starts to take shape as a song, although it's not a song as we in the normal sense of the word.
Yeah. Were you precious about H editing stuff and moving it around, or were you free?
No. I mean, I like that. I mean, on a technical level, there was challenges, but no, in terms of the sort of art of the album, it was good to have that, because it kind of compressed it more, and it kind of put it into shape, if you know what I mean. A lot of my stuff tends to ramble, and sometimes it rambles without really purpose, and it's just about a feeling, and you can only really impose that on someone, so much. But I think we hit a good kind of middle ground on it, and I think it's different to anything we've done. I think
Definitely, it's a wonderful headphone album. It sounds amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a sonic masterpiece.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which has nothing to do with me. That's down to his nibs there.
That was the one thing
as
with
well. You did experiment a lot with the voice. You did a lot of backing vocals. You did a lot of kind of layered things and unexpected things with the voice. So it wasn't just a case of singing a straight vocal over it.
No, I was trying to find ways of creating little voicescapes here and there.
Yeah, and it's like an instrument.
Yeah, with that, what springs immediately to mind is the little wall of shimmery. I'm a bit hoarse at the moment, or I'd sing it. That was then sort of tracked up to make almost like another arrangement color coming in to make.
And of course, Dave Gregory contributed a lot to that track.
Oh, he did, didn't he? Oh, God. Yeah.
He kind of went from these kind of bird-like kind of guitar things, look like creatures, and these
those
weird sounds to beautiful kind of mellow electric guitar melodies and string arrangements.
Was that track older than the rest then, because Dave was on it, or?
I can't remember. I think it seems that's the one that we kind of worked on first, wasn't it?
I thought that was the first one.
Yeah.
How come Dave ended up on that and not all over the place? I don't really know.
He was on he was on a couple of other tracks as well. But I mean, he's somebody we both love, and I'd have him over all the music if I could.
Oh, I'd have him in the spare room.
Just locked
all the time. He's a lovely person as well as being a brilliant musician. Maybe I wouldn't want to live with him. Maybe I only think he's lovely because I don't see him all the time. I don't know, but he is wonderful, and he's very modest. But he's got a really innate sense of good taste, and he's very sensitive. And he was very respectful of the pictures I was painting in the lyrics. And so what he delivered was almost like a sonic illustration. I was kind of lyrically trying to illustrate what I was hearing from Richard. And then when it came back from Dave, I think Dave was trying to illustrate the lyric. So the whole thing was really spiritually in phase with itself, I think. I'm thinking particularly of Red Kite, which I think is probably the best thing on there.
Yeah, probably is.
With the passage of time, I think I've settled down to thinking that.
I think it's a great way to open the album, and it really just sort of starts off very sort of small and opens up massively. And the effect with Steve's vocal in one speaker and then all the music in the other speaker at the beginning is really great.
Oh, did we do that?
Just at the beginning of the track, and then it opens out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Chris Maitland's on Only Love, isn't he?
A little bit. Just towards the end. That was an epic track. I think actually, Steve, you had a lot to do with that, didn't you? In the end, you kind of took it over because I kind of lost my way with it a bit in the end.
I got a bit carried away with, everything I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And a lot of those words come from the Magic Doctor in Utrecht, the one I wrote, Happiness is the Road about. And he became something of he was a massive influence, sort of philosophically, at that point in time. So I was thinking a lot about what he'd said to me, and he used to say things and I'd write them down. He was almost like a guru to me for a little while. And I wanted to get all that out there. But I wanted it to have a sort of a shamanic feeling to it, like a tribal priest passing the knowledge of down from, the altar or something. So I was trying to make it sound like an indigenous sort of tribal chief, which is, only fear, the thing. And I got a bit carried away with the vocal levels as well. I wanted the voice to be insanely loud here and there against the music, so it was actually a bit shocking, and I probably overdid it a bit. But I think Richard calmed me down eventually.
I think I think I left it to you. You mixed that track in the end.
Oh, did you? You didn't calm me down then?
No, I think I just left you
sure
with
you
that
weren't
track,
that
and I
loud?
think, yeah.
I remember you said that. Bloody singers, give them an inch.
But of course, we had Mike, didn't we? Doing
We
it
did.
as well.
Yeah. Yes, we did. Yeah, he came in and helped towards the end. I don't think he mixed it, did he? He certainly mastered it. Maybe he did.
I think he's down as mixing it. I think.
Oh, well, then he did.
I gave him my mixes, and he kind of worked from those, really.
He can't have done much to them. But he probably had to do quite a bit more with mine.
Did he add sorry? Did he add any instrumentation to it?
Mike, no. He just would have mixed it.
He didn't. We did have a lovely drummer called Aaron Amoon, who played on a couple of tracks. Yeah. Really, really nice player. Lovely sound and lovely feel.
I'm going to ask you about the track Naked, because that's almost the antithesis of some of the other stuff on the album, because it's so sparse at the beginning.
Well, we got Danny Thompson on that, hadn't we? Playing the bass.
Yeah.
The double bass. We brought him in. Fortunately, Richard knew Danny, and and was able to persuade him to come to the Racket Club with his double bass and get involved. And he was wonderful.
Yeah, you got on like a house on fire.
Yeah, we did. Oh, hello, he went, "Watcher."
Yeah.
I thought, oh, well, I'm in. One of them. So we had a whale of a time.
James, you commented in the first episode about some of the lyrics that H you've obviously gone back in the Racket archives that H had sort of used earlier or tried earlier on with Marillion.
Yeah. I think, as you said, Crack was on the shelf for quite a while. I've heard echoes and bits of it quite a lot over sort of from Radiation onwards up to Happiness. And I think it was saying that, and we'll talk about Artlight in a bit probably, Oil nearly became a Marillion song, didn't it? The lyric on that was something you played around quite early on in the Marble sessions.
Was it?
Yeah, it was something called Heart of Darkness.
Right, deep in the heart of Texas. Deep in the heart of darkness, yeah. Yeah, well, I guess that was the Iraq War, and that feeling that oil gets under everything, dig a big enough hole on the beach and you get to oil, all the pollution that's sort of been swept in over the years, that's been covered up, and oil also gets under everything in the sense of corrupting, because there's so much money in it, and compromising government policies and good intentions. And I just think it's kind of weird to, Bedouins in Ferraris.
Yeah, it's one of the things we were talking last week as well, isn't it, James, where we're saying there's a lot of the material and some of the lyrics on this are very foreshadowing of what was going to come later with Fear.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Was this sort of where your mind was already starting to go?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was already in that headspace.
There's lines, isn't there, in Only Love Will Set You Free that you use later with Marillion?
Well, there's a title track of Fear. There's the title of Fear is
yeah. What's that thing? What is it? Fuck off and
fuck everyone and run.
Yeah.
That came from the Dutch doctor. He used to say all these things to me. There's only two basic forces in the world. There's love and there's fear, and fear is fuck everyone and run. And everything that's bad in the world comes from fear, and I think that's absolutely true. Fear kind of produces all the bad shit, from everyone and everything. It all comes out of fear. Mistrust comes from fear, and greed to some extent comes from the fear of not having enough. And it's and you've got that, and then you've got love, and that's your lot really, and everything else flows from those two things. So I was just trying to make that point in the strongest possible terms, and everything I was trying to say.
Sorry, Gary here. Did you did you run it by the band when you were writing Fear that you'd already used that very prominent lyric on this album?
I was fairly confident they'd never notice.
That's what I was going to ask.
You mean they didn't listen to it?
Exactly. They're probably listening to it any day now. One of them will listen to it. Go, oi! I'll get the phone call.
That's what I thought.
I kind of did that, to be fair, but I got into a lot of hot water. I did exactly the same thing when I joined Marillion, and I left the Europeans, and I'd got quite a few things on the shelf, that I'd either sort of used and put in demos that never went anywhere, and I just didn't really think too much about people's noses getting out of joint. The way I see it is, they're my words, they're my thoughts. If I want to put them out there, I should. I mean, I'll try not to keep writing the same song. But there were things that I'd done with the Europeans that they got quite pissed off about, because they said, hang on a minute, that's from there. And I go, well, yeah, but nobody ever heard it. Would you rather it was just buried and gone forever, but yours? Or would you rather it was out there? So I like to put it out there. I guess they're like paintings at the end of the day. If you want to put the same face in two different paintings, you should be able to.
There's going to be crossover.
Hang on a minute, you can't.
I mean, lyricists, they're working with universal themes. There's going to be things that cross over and that you hear again, and repeated kind of ideas. What can you do? It's what inspires art, isn't it? Whether it's painting, music, or poetry or lyricism.
Can I ask about Arclight? Did the sessions just kind of carry on? Because I think Intergalactic, I seem to recall when Not the Weapon came out, Intergalactic was a download only. So did you just keep working on stuff, and that's how Arclight came out the following year, or?
We didn't use them, and they just kind of had gone on the shelf or in the bin or whatever you'd call it. And then quite a lot of time passed. And Richard phoned me up or wrote to me one day and said, "Oh, I've been driving around with those tracks that we did, that we decided, we didn't want to use. And I think they're really cool.
Yeah.
And we should put them out." So we returned to them and just, polished them slightly or tried to finish them off. And that was how that came to, the little poppy ones.
Yeah.
The Supermarket in the Sky one. What was that called?
That's Waiting to be Born. Yeah.
Waiting to be Born. Yeah, that we returned to that and finished that off. But Arclight, I can't remember. Was that conceived completely as a thing of its own when we had a bit more time?
Was it?
I think it was, because
was it after your mother died?
I remember sitting cross-legged in tears actually on the floor in the house that we lived in while we were doing this house. We had to rent a house.
Mm.
We rented a little kind of like a bed sit almost, and we just had a meal. And I remember sitting on the floor singing that lyric on the piano music that you'd sent me, and it was about my mum. And I don't think I'd had that very long. I think I'd just written that. I mean, James would probably say, "Nah, you had that for years." But to my mind, I couldn't have written it before she passed away, because it was, it was about what I wish I hadn't done while she was alive, because I could be quite tough on her sometimes. Because, old ladies, they get a bit, it's easy to lose your patience with them. And I sometimes used to lose my patience with her a bit. Which are, once they've gone, you think, oh. So that was the song I never wrote for her, while she was alive. And Arclight itself was some words I wrote that is my kind of signing off message, really. And I've instructed everyone in the family that when I croak, I want that either reading out at my funeral, or I want it putting on the headstone or whichever, the can of beans that they throw into the sea. I want that to be my, I've written my own epitaph.
It's an incredible lyric. It really is. And so is Elaine. It's a heartbreaking lyric.
Mm.
I was heartbroken writing it. I was heartbroken singing it. I think there's a couple of places in it where my voice cracks because I left that in. I could have tidied it up, but I thought, well, sod it.
Yeah, there's a definite fragility in the vocal delivery.
Mm.
And it keeps it honest as well.
Don't get much more honest.
Exactly.
Oh, I got a black cat.
Oh, this is Pepper, who every single time we do an episode, it's just, I've been at work all day, so she just likes to be front and center every time.
He usually wears it like a scarf.
Right. Oh, shadow.
Oh, wow. Ed, can I ask you about the Daddy Does Work lyric?
Yeah. Well, again, it's pretty obvious what that's about, isn't it? It's about the father that never stops working and won't play with his kids because he's too busy, and I have been that father. And I regret it, but at the same time, if I could do it all again, I'd be the same, because it's who I am, and I'm just not good at. I'm not good at playing with kids. My idea of hell is a soft play centre, and so when I had kids, I would always. I mean, I was busy a lot of the time when we had Sophie and Niall. I was barely there. When we had Emil, I was there a bit more, but I would tend to sort of make excuses whenever, soft play reared its ugly head. I'd suddenly be even busier than I already was. And so I think there's a price you pay for that, because at the end of the day, it you get what you give, and but I mean, I've been quite lucky. I've got a really good relationship with my kids now they've grown up, so I can't have been that bad. But maybe I exploited their mothers a little bit, and put it all on them in a way that I perhaps shouldn't have, so I get the horsehair shirt on every now and again and suffer about that, but none of it will ever make any difference. So Daddy Does Work is just about, acknowledging. I'm not saying this is me, but
No,
I'm not kidding anyone, am I? Everything's about me. I'm a singer. It's all
Steve,
about me.
we kind of looked at that, and I took it from the other side as well. That you've not only have you been that father potentially, but you've also been that child where you're trying to get the attentions and you cause trouble because you want the attention of, and mother makes you smile, makes you smile, whatever.
Well, maybe, yeah, to be honest, I hadn't given that any thought, but my dad was away a lot in the Navy when I was young. And he was busy, and there were different times, the woman would do the cooking, the cleaning and the washing and look after the kids, and the bloke would go out and earn the money and then flop into an armchair at night knackered and not really want to get involved in anything. That was the kind of post-war man-woman dynamic that I was sort of born into.
Yeah.
Because I am frightfully old. And that's all kind of changed now. But perhaps that's where my own, not selfishness, but my own behaviour regarding the kids came from. It was what I knew from being one myself. So often those things are handed down in a never-ending cycle of either good or bad.
it's learned behaviour, isn't it? Yeah. It's well documented about the proposed tour for 2013 that you guys were going to do. But I mean, on Richard's website, there's still the announcement for the tour, and he's very excited about a 6-piece band playing stuff from respective solo albums. Did you get to the point where you'd assembled the band? Were you at that point?
Yeah, I mean, we decided who we were going to have, and we had some meetings about it, and it was very ambitious. It was probably at the very beginning of a time where it became difficult to tour, which we have now. It's a problem for any act to try to tour, especially if you're not playing massive places, and I don't know. We just thought we're gonna go along with this. We're gonna assemble a fantastic band. We got the dates together, and it was that kind of thing where what we really needed was everybody who was interested to get involved at that point.
Yeah.
And if we said, "Oh look, we've almost sold out that venue," or "That one's looking really good," or "This one's," but it was that kind of time where people were just thinking, "Oh well, I would have gone, but I'd maybe get tickets later. I'll just go on the night." Well, they didn't really realize that that's making or breaking a tour, So it was too much of a risk in the end that we didn't get enough interest to make it happen, to make the whole logistics happen.
what we should have
right, or am I thinking?
Yeah, what we should have done was crowdfunded the whole thing and pre-sold it. And then we'd have known what level we could go in at, but we didn't. And there was a promoter, Udo, in Germany, and he'd put 4 or 5 shows in. And he came to me and he said, "It's completely stiffing and I'm going to lose my house." And I couldn't do that to him because I know him. And he's not some big-time promoter. He's just I think he's a graphic artist.
Mm.
He's a designer. And he gets involved in promoting shows purely out of passion. And it was that realization really that there was a real risk that the whole German tour was going to go down and take him with it. And then if you took that tour out of the equation, it was barely worth doing the other shows. So we had to just pull it because somebody, I would have probably lost quite a lot of money, although I don't know how much I would have lost. But Udo would have lost his house, and I couldn't. I wouldn't have been able to go to him for the money he'd guaranteed us.
Mm. The more amazing that we did all those H tours, H band.
Yeah.
Well, it was amazing, really, because nobody was really. I think we did that tour on the kind of, well, nobody's getting paid, but if we make any money, I'll split it equally. That was and fortunately, at the end, we did make enough that when I split it, I didn't insult anyone. But, I had pulled a lot of favours. So that tour was being done out of a collective sense of excitement for doing it. No one in that band was doing it for the money.
No, we were doing it because we wanted to play music together with those people. And how many phases did that go through? How many was it about 3 or 4 different lineups?
Well, we had we had Clem and Chucho as a rhythm section at the beginning, and then Clem vanished, Chucho vanished. I think then we had Mikey Wilson come in, and we had Aaron come in, and we had Andy Gangadine come in. So we had 4 different drummers across. And
then we had Jingles on bass, and then we had Pete came in.
Pete Travis came in and played some bass as well. So they were the kind of floaters, and
the constant was
core to it.
With Aziz, Dave, and
Dal, Stephanie, you and me. We're all core to it. And the other, the rhythm sections came and went as rhythm sections do.
Do you miss those tours?
Can you trust them?
They were great fun.
Yeah, I do miss it. To go and do it tomorrow. I mean, everybody's always saying, when are you putting the H band back together? But, it would be a lot of work. It would be a lot of time. And I'm slightly nervous that it'd be myth-shattering. This myth's grown around the H band, and if we put it back together, we were just okay.
No, it definitely we're more than okay, because we saw the H band loads of times, John, didn't we? Right from the garage gigs all the way through, so we saw all the different lineups. And the thing that we're really excited with, and what James has been working his little socks off for, obviously is the Ice Cream Genius Deluxe with all these super duper extras that's going to be on board with it. So
yeah, well, I managed to. I mean, we had that board recording from Barcelona that Ian Bond did, and now there's technology to stem split from stereo.
It's really good though. I listened to that in the car. It's really good.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
As it is.
The voice is a bit loud, so I was able to just turn the lead vocal down a bit here and there. So it's essentially what it was.
It's got and it's got bits and pieces from the other periods of the H band as well, so that across the whole box set you pretty much get a experience of the whole, as we've just talked about, the 4 drummers. And it's really, yeah, I've listened to H's mix on it and it sounds fantastic.
Fabulous. Well, it took me a fair amount of time to do it, and I sent it to Mike for final tweaking, and he came back and said he thought it sounded great, and he's not easily impressed. So that was great news after the amount of work I'd put into it.
I think it's going to reignite. We were just saying about, you know, myth-shattering stuff, but I think the box set is going to reignite the interest of the H band.
Well, I'll just need a bit of time. I could probably persuade most of the characters to do it, provided they weren't busy. And I know Richard's very busy at the moment, so it's not like I could haul you out onto the road next week, is it? But we could probably work something out. It would be nice to do it again. I mean, Glenn wouldn't be an option. Who else? There was someone else who passed away who was involved in that. Oh, Lewis, of course, who played all the percussion. So we've lost a couple of characters from that album.
Richard, did you get any sort of input into the H set list, or was it all what Steve wanted to play?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I think it was kind of what Steve wanted. I think the general feeling was that we didn't want to do too many covers.
We did.
You know, we had to do a lot of covers, obviously.
Kind of had to.
Huh?
We kind of had to, but I
had to, yeah.
I guess I probably pushed a few more in than we absolutely had to.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the covers, some covers appealed to certain people more than others, I guess, you know. It's quite easy to see, you know, what would appeal to Dave, what would appeal to Aziz, you know. Andy G wasn't a big one for covers.
No. And he hates the Beatles with a vengeance. Makes me laugh.
But you know, they're good covers. They've got something different about them. And
Helter Skelter's massive.
Yeah.
It's massive returning. Was Andy playing on that? Probably was for his
one of the versions. Yeah, he would have been. Yeah.
Yeah, reluctantly playing Helter Skelter. It's fabulous.
Well, and like the Green Manalishi, that was a brilliant version.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Also, Dream Brother was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to open with that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the body and spirit nights at Dingwalls were just
hot and sweaty.
Off the scale.
Yeah, it was what's the word? Cozy on that stuff.
Certainly that, yeah.
Unfortunately, the closest I ever got to the H band was when Richard, Aziz, and Dalby played at the 100 Club with you at the end of an H Natural show, and the atmosphere was electric because obviously I've heard all about the H band. I'm a little bit too young to have seen it, so I was a little bit excited.
But Aziz and Dave were always fantastic because they were like a foil for each other, because Dave had all the discipline and the musicality, but it's quite maybe it's too much to say he's a shoegazer, but he's not, you know, he's not the most exuberant performer, but he's totally reliable and he's got all his shit together. And then you've got Aziz, who turns up on day one of the rehearsals with a sprained ankle, you know, a day late, and rubbing his hands going, how does this lot go then? And he hasn't even listened to it. But then he'll go on stage with his nipples and his balls out, you know, and, you know, where haven't I been? And he's an incredible showman, an amazing player. So they're both incredible players, but in two completely different ways. Dave's reliable, and Aziz is just kind of, what's the word? He's a star.
Mercurial.
Mercurial. Thank you. That'll do. That was kind. But brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it was good. It was an education for me going back and listening to those live tracks and hearing what Aziz was doing. I mean, that intro of you and him, I'd never heard that because I was always in the dressing room. And I go, oh, go on and do some stuff for a bit, and I'll wander out after a while. And I'd never really heard it. But if I'd bought a ticket for that show and that happened at the beginning, I'd be standing there going, what the fuck? Am I about to witness? Because it was, really radical and really like nothing else, that I've heard since, let alone before. So quite something.
But just to realise, we're recording this on the 9th of February. It was actually exactly 29 years ago today that the garage gig was in London. 9th of February, 9th of February 1997.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Still remember how loud Clem was that night. In fact, I've still got ringing in my ears probably from that. It was.
I remember Clem just asking for a hairdryer at every show. You'd be sound checking and he'd be going, do we have a hairdryer? And I go, well, I haven't got one, Clem. Oh, all right. Okay, never mind. And off he'd go, and then just before the show, he'd say, we didn't get hold of a hairdryer, did we? And I go, no. So, he was very showbiz, which is not a criticism,
I know. Hell of a drummer.
Yeah. Yeah, hell of a human. He had that. I mean, for me, he had that kind of punk trash without it being not right. It was in the pocket, but it felt fuzzy around the edges in a good way for me. I liked the fact that he wasn't an accurate session sort of drummer. He was a force. So it was great. And of course he was famous and he had a leopard skin shirt on. So even better.
Would you ever play any of the Barbieri stuff with the H band? If you got,
of course I would. Yeah, in a heartbeat. As long as I could, go off stage and drink large amounts of alcohol while it was going on.
It's kind of what we were planning, wasn't it, for that tour that we didn't do?
Yeah.
Is anything in the pipeline with you two to work together?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the spirit is willing always. It's just a case of, what was the last thing you said to me? What did you want me to do? Last time you wanted me to do something. You wanted me to write some things, didn't you? And send them to you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're more busy than I am. I mean, I'm busy now. I've got an album coming out in a couple of months, and it's being announced on Thursday. So this is the time where I'm doing all the kind of interviews and all that prep that you do 2 months before the release. So today I was at the surround sound mix to okay that. So that's the first solo album I've made in 5 years, I guess.
Wow.
I'm not going to tour, but I'm going to do probably listening playback parties, do the Dolby playbacks, and also do some nice vinyl lounge playbacks, and interviews and quick Q&As and chats, and just make it an informal kind of thing for audiophiles who want to come along and just get into that and enjoy the evening. I mean, aside from me making a solo album every 5 years and Porcupine Tree, then I'm not really busy. The Porcupine Tree aren't a band that just constantly are at it, as you know. So we've been writing, and so I think there's a good chance there'll be another album, but But generally, you know, I probably have more time than Steve does. Is that right?
Yeah, well, Marillion are pretty relentless.
Yeah, you don't really you don't really have kind of hiatuses as such.
No, every now and
we had
again.
a 12-year one.
Lucy sort of gives me 6 weeks off every now and again. It takes me 3 weeks to recover,
you
know, and then 3 weeks to do all the shit that people do in their normal lives. If they're to hold anything together. And before I know it, I'm back at it again. But, you know, Marillion won't go on forever.
No, I mean, I'll keep sending you stuff, and eventually,
I'd like you to. Always send me anything.
It'll just happen in its own time.
Yeah. I've got a lot of words at the moment, and I'm very unlikely to use them all. And I've gone through a pretty fertile time in the last, 3 months. A lot of things, maybe the last 6 months to a year, a lot of things have been coming out. I can't make it happen. Sometimes it doesn't for months and months, and then other times and it isn't all necessarily good stuff, but a lot of it is. So, and it's unlikely it'll all be used on this forthcoming Marillion album. So there's definitely, I'm in a bit of a vein at the moment of words and thoughts.
Talking of words, obviously, would you consider doing something like, say, Elaine as part of your like spoken word as part of like an H Natural show? Because obviously they're quite moving words. The themes in them are quite universal, and obviously for me, I think it deserves a wider audience.
Yeah, maybe I've pondered it. I mean, it's something I'd love to do at an H Natural show if Richard was to come and play the piano. And actually, because it was his composition, and he has an approach to piano that's totally his own, and I've not really mine, which is part of the beauty of it. It could be nice to do it together one night, definitely.
Yeah, speaking of a wider audience for like the three releases, when we spoke to Lucy a couple of weeks ago, we did give her a good old prod about these albums not being available on the streamers at the moment. So they're not on like Apple or on Amazon Music or on Spotify. So hopefully that's going to get sorted out.
Yeah, we should do that. Maybe surround mix at some point.
Yeah, definitely deserve a wider audience.
Yeah, a surround mix of these would be brilliant. It would really, I mean, exactly. Yeah. Do you listen to surround at home, Richard?
No, I haven't got any of that gear.
Right.
I listen very lo-fi, I have to say. I enjoy listening to music most in the car.
Right.
So I've now got quite a nice little system for the car. That's where I kind of listen to stuff. I don't have a real hi-fi as such. I don't have great gear and equipment. No, I mean, you make the music and you experience it while you're making it, and then you hear the final mix, and then you go and you listen to the 5.1 in the perfect position, and you think, fantastic, lovely. But I'm not that kind of person. I just like to put something on in the car and listen.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I like the sound of those old cassettes as well, with the hiss. So I'm not a mad kind of audiophile when it comes to listening to other people's stuff.
Does it change the feel of your music though? When you've signed a mix off and then it's done in Atmos, does that change the feel of it?
Yeah. Well, like today was quite weird for me because I've never had one of my solo albums done in Atmos before, and it makes you realize that some things it brings to life in this amazing way, and you think, this track was made for this format. You know, it's just, and luckily that happened with like 9 out of the 11 tracks. It really made me love them more, you know, because they became something else. But there were a couple of tracks on there that I feel, no, they're made to be stereo, where everything just molds together. You know, separating them out just couldn't make it really work. I mean, we've done it, but you know, in my heart of hearts, I know that they would be better stereo.
It's funny, isn't it? Like I'm reminded of the mono stereo thing, and how records before stereo were just meant to be mono, and then they were stereoed up later. And
I mean, I make music for stereo, so I don't make music for surround.
Yeah.
But obviously now people do make music for surround while they're composing it.
Yeah, you've got to design it from the ground up.
So I suppose it's a success in that most of my music does work in surround anyway, so that's positive.
Yeah, I would have liked to have heard it. I would have been, you know, ligging at your thing today if I could, but I had to be in the studio with the boys.
Yeah, understood.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure. I wish you great success with the album. I'm sure it'll be brilliant, and I can't wait to hear it myself. I am.
Thank you. Yes, it's been announced on Thursday.
Well, as these guys know, I'm massively into my surround mixes, and so I would look forward to hear.
What's it called?
It's called Hauntings. Okay. And the kind of overall themes are kind of nostalgia for things that were real, and nostalgia for things that never happened, and even nostalgia for the future. They're these things that haunt you, that are so real, that you feel that it's part of your existence, even though those things haven't happened. It's a weird kind of thing. It's called anemoia. And there's also this thing called hauntology, which is a kind of sad, nostalgic longing for a future that won't happen. And mixed in with all that is kind of time travel simulations. It's all a bit of a head phase thing. So I think there's a lot of concepts in there, which, you know, it's difficult for when you write instrumental music, because you haven't got the lyrics to you know, to put this before people. So you work from a very evocative title, and you hope that gets something across, and it will mean different things to different people. But I do like to have a concept, and I do write music that goes with something that I felt or that I've seen. And that's kind of how it's always been for me. Yeah. So that's my kind of inspiration on this album. It goes from like Victorian sound design pieces, where, for example, the first chimes of Big Ben are recorded in 1890. And so you hear these very first chimes that they appear on an old wax cylinder, and it's mixed in with kind of voices from the radio of that time. And it's a whole sound design piece, which then goes into another piece, which is kind of Victorian ghosts, which I used to see in my bedroom when I was a child. I saw Victorian figures floating around the room. And although my parents said I had a fever, I still never believe that. So I think I have seen spirits. And then it will switch to something quite odd, like a futuristic AI girlfriend gone wrong.
We always go wrong.
with some interesting vocals on it. Yeah, it kind of flits around.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a kind of a time traveling simulation.
Can I just ask you, Richard, do you approach things with like a palette of sounds that you want to try, or is there just wherever it just leads, you just go with that?
Well, I mean, I had 2 years of writing rubbish. Nothing was working. This is how it is with me. And I couldn't get anything started or anything finished, and it's just nothing was working. Then suddenly you turn a corner and something happens, and it's usually just one sound or a combination of sounds. And that has the feeling, that has what you want. That's the essence and the kernel of everything that piece of music should be. And then it becomes easy to work with that.
Yeah.
It's just finding that thing. And it's usually just a sound, a melody, or a combination of a sample or two very disparate kind of elements. The fact they work together, that then becomes the basis of something. And then I'm inspired, and then it goes from there. Probably people would say, what's your biggest influence? My biggest influence is like a badly tuned radio. Because when I was a child, I used to listen to a radio underneath the bed, Radio Luxembourg, and you get the little aerial out and try it, and the reception was always terrible. And you'd often get this balance between two stations that you'd be hearing at the same time.
Yeah.
One might be a voice, one might be this music going with it, one might be two different instruments playing from different radio stations, but I thought it sounded amazing. And I never really heard anything like that before. So the reason, albums like My Life in the Bush of Ghosts by Brian Eno and David Byrne, that's why those sort of things influenced me so much, because it was using kind of samples from out of context and bringing it into a new context.
Yeah.
That combination, and that's kind of what interests me, really.
Yeah.
Richard, speaking of nostalgia, we were talking earlier, and Paul, his wife was a massive Japan fan, and one of my good friends, Rob, who got so excited when he heard that we're speaking to you tonight, he said, I've got to ask you, so sorry for this question, it's probably something you've been asked loads of times, is what was your favourite album that you did with Japan?
My favourite album was Quiet Life, which was the third album. It was my favourite because it was the happiest time in my life. And I think for the other guys as well, it was just a period where I was so happy. It was the first time that we were in a studio with the budget where we could just stay there a month or two and try things. It was the first time I was able to play an overdub and then immediately go in and put something else on top of that and get a combination of sounds together. It was the moment that we all suddenly changed from being just a kind of new wave, kind of a little bit sort of rough and ready band into something really sophisticated and interesting. It was the most amazing time being in the studio. We worked with orchestras, we worked with kind of all kinds of interesting arrangements and instrumentation. And we were still only like 20 or something, 21. So that was the happiest time, and it's my favorite album. But the best work we ever did probably was Tin Drum.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always enjoyable. But what Tin Drum has that Quiet Life doesn't is that Tin Drum is in a world of its own, and it's not pinned to any decade or era. You don't know where it's coming from. It's just something original, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just do you remember the feeling of just being in the studio and just loving it so much and just thinking that, wow, I'm making this thing that's, this thing I'm playing is always going to be there now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was for me, that was probably in Rockfield making Recurring Dreams with the Europeans.
Mm. For a vocalist, it's even more kind of precious sometimes, I guess, because it's very personal, and you're putting your heart and soul onto something, and that that's the version that you're always going to hear.
Yeah, there's a lot of discomfort in the beginning when the first few albums you make, I guess. I'm not so fussed now. I think I've got the hang of it. But certainly at the beginning, to be in a acoustically dead space with a pair of headphones on, trying to do what you're used to doing while standing on stage with some wedge monitors in a room full of noise and people in front of you and the energy of the moment, and suddenly to be in this sterile cork covered place with a pair of rotten headphones on, because those headphones in recording studios were always rotten. They'd have those
painful
those white Bayer dynamic things that made your head ache, and didn't sound in any way flattering, and so you could be extremely uncomfortable. I think most singers, when they first get into a recording studio, are very uncomfortable because they're in this. It's like everything about what they do that is special or exciting is sucked away from them, and they're just left with this sterile, magnified, sort of dry, or if it's not dry and they've put you some reverb in the cans, the reverb's always wrong and you can't quite explain what you need, especially when you're young, because you haven't got the language to explain it.
I think the circumstances as well, though, when you're recording have a lot to do with it. The studio you're in, where you are in the world when you're doing it, the general vibe.
Well, for a singer, it's who you're working with. If you've got a good producer who knows his onions, then part of it, him knowing his onions, is knowing how to get the best out of everybody and make everybody relaxed. And because you can't make a great record if people aren't up for making a great record. All you can do is record people doing what they do at their best. That's your job.
Yeah, you have to somehow get the magic of what the band is or what the band do. You have to get that on to disc.
Yeah.
Got to get that onto tape. And then it has its life of its own. And then that enters other people's lives, other people's homes, TV stations, airwaves. It goes out into the world, and that's kind of the magic of it. And that for me is what the afterlife is. The afterlife's what you kind of leave behind and what lives on.
You've both left some amazing music as it stands now. So, and there's lots more to come, hopefully. And well,
he almost killed over.
Sorry, H just killed it over. Sorry, listeners. Yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Look, you're both huge musical idols of all of us on this podcast. So we want to thank you very much for spending an hour with us this evening talking about this great releases. That if you've not heard them, we do heartily recommend you go and listen to these 3 releases. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Lucy can get these back on streaming so you can dip your toe in the water. But thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It's a nice thing to do.
Thank you, mate. And thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. A pleasure.
And thanks to my co-host here, Gary.
Thank you.
All these blokes.
Yeah.
All these blokes.
We occasionally get Felicity on, but it's a birthday this week. Thank you,
She's
James.
a good year as well.
Pleasure. It's been a good evening.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you soon, Rich.
See you soon. Speak soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
How do I switch it off?
Hit the ejector seat.
He knew that he had his hand hovering over the button the whole time.
Yeah, for 20 minutes, yeah.
I've no idea how to do it.
There's a little man in the bottom right-hand corner.
Oh, I see him now. All right. Toodaloo.
See you, Hayes.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
As I was saying, thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much. That was great, gentlemen. Thanks.
And thank you, Craig. All that remains to be said is it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
Who's going to do it then?
Let's stay alive.
There we go. Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and check out Marillion.com, fishmusic.scot for all the good stuff.